Katie Gebley here. As you can see, I have on my table my art journal that I've started working on this year. Page by page, it is coming together. I'll do a quick layout here of all of the pages I have so far. These are all about 9 by 10 inches, and they are done on various types of paper, cardstock, chipboard, watercolor paper, anything that I had on hand, and that's kind of what I'm using to build my journal. And I did a video like this a couple weeks ago, and I just love the process, so I'm doing another one. I am working on a large piece of watercolor paper here, and that allows me to be able to do a full spread of 2 different pages for my journal. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just tracing one of my pages just to get a rough idea of the size I need. I really enjoy working on larger paper, I've learned, because it allows me to work outside the lines a little bit, which just naturally gives you a little more freedom and flexibility in your work. Don't feel quite as restricted by the edges and that kind of thing. So I really enjoy it, and I'm probably going to use that more and more moving forward. And then here I'm just using some markers to get my marks going. You probably know by now, if you've seen a couple of my videos, I think jumping into just starting with some simple marks where I'm not overthinking it is the best way, at least for me, to get started on my work. It seems like once there's some kind of markings on the paper, the rest isn't so difficult. It's just a matter of getting started. So just got some marks, and now I am diving into a little bit of watercolors. I don't know a lot about watercolors, but I do know that I really enjoy using them as a base layer. They dry really quickly, and the subtle color that they provide really works well with the style of journal that I create. And this cute little set my mom got me for my birthday, and I've been using it a lot. I'll link it below if you're interested. So starting a new journal page, I don't always know exactly what I'm gonna write about, which is probably a good thing if you're dwelling on something for a long time. So starting a new journal page or a couple pages here, I don't exactly know what I'm going to write about yet, and that's sometimes the case. Sometimes I do know what I will share and what's been on my mind and weighing me down for a while, and then sometimes I don't, and I just start the process of making my page and creating some artwork, and then the words kind of flow from there. So for this one, I haven't overthought it or anything. I'm just starting with this foundation of the pages, and then we'll kind of see where that goes. It's just a good reminder that you don't always have to have it all figured out. And a lot of the artwork I do is all about the process and not so much the end product. So just kind of going with the flow and tapping into how I'm feeling and that kind of thing is the best way that I work. So I asked this a couple videos ago, and I got some really good responses, but I'll ask again just because the more information I have, the better. But first, before I get into that, I just want to share here that I am using some of the tracing paper collage pieces that I created in my last video, which I will link here above. And this is going to be a great example of how I use these and incorporate them into my work. You can either cut them with scissors or tear them like I just did. And they just make beautiful pieces for collage because, as I mentioned in that video, all the colors underneath will show through, but then the vivid lines of whatever marks that you made with the collage paper will obviously lay on top. So I really, really enjoy this method, and I'm planning to create a whole pile of these again in the future. So back to my question, I'm still trying to figure out what works best and what people are really looking for when they're watching a YouTube video. And I would love to know again, do you guys enjoy me walking you through the process and kind of having this background of my voice throughout a video? Or do you prefer just some music where you can kind of just zone out, see what I'm doing, and not necessarily, get the play by play? Or maybe you prefer a little bit of both. I would love to learn more about that. I will tell you one thing, I will never be the flashy kind of person that's gonna talk super fast and put a bunch of different things in your face. That feels very overwhelming to me, and I understand why it works. It keeps your attention and keeps things exciting, but unfortunately, that's not quite the vibe I work best in here. So uh, there's plenty of people that do that and do a great job at it, and I love their work. But for me in my videos, I really like to keep it simple and slow paced. So any feedback you have about what you prefer or what you've seen works really well, that would just be really helpful for me. But in the meantime, I'm just going to kind of stay the course and continue to create just simple, hopefully informative videos for you all. So I'm playing around with this collage paper. I'm just gluing it with a little bit of matte medium. And sometimes it takes me a little while to figure out where I'm going to lay it. And that's kind of the fun part. Matte medium works really good for this collage paper since it's so thin. The matte medium is thin and the paper is thin, so it doesn't feel too heavy and it dries fairly quickly. And you can see I actually put some of the paint over top of the collage paper just to keep it down real flat. One thing that I didn't mention in that previous video where I created this collage paper is the reason I use Sharpies for these is that it won't bleed when you add water or paint on top of them. Some of the collage paper I've been working with, I'll use like my Posca pen or other kind of markers, and those will bleed when you add any kind of liquid on them. So again, just another reason I really enjoy the Sharpies, not to mention they're super affordable and almost everybody has some Sharpies on hand, so you can really do some cool stuff with them. And I can't incorporate or I can't do collage work without using a little bit of my sewing patterns that I love to put into my work. This too is pretty thin and see-through, so it works well for collaging. It's pretty neat to see how just a couple marks can really start filling up a page and making it look interesting. You really don't have to do too much here. All right, I think I have enough for my base layer. I'm feeling pretty happy with this. So I'm going to start incorporating some words onto these journal pages. And I just grabbed a piece of printer paper and then a piece of that tracing paper that I use for the collage papers. And I'm just going to write my words on top of that. As I've said before, this is just a great way, if you're going to write a little bit, you can write on this tracing paper and then glue it down instead of writing directly onto your piece. It's perfect for people who have a lot of misspellings and that kind of thing like I do. So it's just a foolproof way to go about this. And the root of this message that I'm writing here is just the idea of continuing to move forward despite some of the hardships and pain and things that are going on in the world right now. Just continuing to move forward because there's always more. There's hope to be found. There's more adventures that are waiting for all of us. And sometimes being aware of the negative things happening in the world can weigh us down, and though it's important to be mindful of those, we also have to continue moving forward and keeping our heads up despite all of that. Now I'm just going to go and add a little bit of details among the words here. It's always good to remember the first thing that you write doesn't have to be final or perfect or anything, because you can always highlight and manipulate the words a little bit. I'm highlighting a couple of the statements here just to make them a little more bold. It's always fun for me to go back and just add these little details that I feel really make a difference for me personally. Whether other people notice it, I don't know, but I like going back and adding little details. All right, and then I just tear my page here when I'm ready. You can also use scissors. You don't have to get very fancy. And then once again, I'll use some of that matte medium to glue it into position. And I'm starting to notice on this page, it feels a little empty, as if I need to fill in some space a little bit before I glue this down. So I'm just gonna go back with some watercolor and put a little bit of more darker colors just to create a little more depth and fill in that white space a little bit. Bring in some of these grays and silvers and blacks. It's interesting when you work, especially if you've been doing this for a long time, just how you kind of can notice the balance, if the balance is off or if something just aesthetically isn't quite right. You just really start to pick up on that. And that's what I did here. And that's why it's just about the journey of creating, just one little step at a time. So while that is drying naturally, I can't just sit still. So I am gonna add a little bit more details with a black Posca pen. Mostly around the outside here, the outside edges. I find that the black ink just really anchors everything in and just kind of balances the piece out a little bit. All right, that's feeling a little bit better. So I'm going to move forward with adding the words, and of course can always go back and add more details if I want to. When I do use these watercolor paints, I am using just the smallest amount of water that I can, just so I can keep moving forward and keep my piece dry. Less is more, right? Just trying to get all these edges down. Is anybody here that is watching at this moment into art journaling in terms of creating your own? Are you looking to learn how to start a journal practice? Are you feeling stuck in any way? I would love to learn about that. What's your favorite part of journaling? What kind of journaling do you do? Tell me more. All right, and so what I'm seeing here, again, on this left side, if I'm just paying attention to the left page here, is I'm really liking what I got so far, but I do feel like there needs to be a little bit of a focal point. And of course, without overthinking that too much, I just feel like there needs to be a place that your eye maybe starts or finishes and then moves around the page. And so I am pulling out some of my rub-on letters here, my lovely rub-on letters. I just love these, and unfortunately I have not seen that they make these anymore, so a lot of these pages that I have are quite old. If anybody knows of a place that is making them, please let me know in the comments. But I just love using these. They're simple, they're fun, a little bit a different way of using them. So I'm just going to write a little message here to include in the page. All right, and there it is. It just says gently ahead. So again, talking about how we can continue to move forward and just slowly keep our heads up and move ahead. So adding a little details here just to complete this left page. It's always fun to go back and add little bits. All right, that is feeling pretty good for me for right now for the first page. And then let's get going on the second page over here. And if anybody is a Dave Matthews fan out there, they will recognize this simple but beautiful line, "Oh Joy Begins," from his song, which I think is entitled Samurai Cop, uh, but it's actually a song about his child being born, and it's just beautiful, and it makes me tear up every time I listen to it. And um, I just love the idea of capturing joy beginning. And so what I'm trying to write about on this side is capturing joy over and over again. And I just think that is such a beautiful concept that that joy can overflow and be present, and it's not like a one-shot deal. You can experience joy over and over and over if you keep your eyes open and look out for it and just have an open heart. So just going over again with the black Posca over the marker that I already put down. Giving it just a little bit more depth than just using plain marker. So this is where I'm writing with my mechanical pencil over and over and over again. just a reminder that joy can be experienced many, many times every day. All right, here too, I'm feeling like I need to add just a little bit of something in this top right corner just to fill in the white space a little bit. And I had printed out a while back a bunch of these just plants and flowers, just black and white images that I like to incorporate into my collage work. So I'm just gonna try adding one or two of these and see if I'm happy with that. Let's try this bigger one out. Because that small one just kind of gets lost, I feel like. All right, that's feeling a little bit better to me. So I think I'm just gonna roll with it. I feel like this is the perfect amount of busy, but also legible and clean feeling. So I guess that's a good place to be. But of course I need to go back and add just a little more details to this before I call it quits. So I'm gonna keep it simple and just use some Sharpies here and add just a little bit more color and details. Like I said, I really enjoy working on a larger page and then cutting it down. It just feels so much more free for me to be able to go beyond the lines a little bit. I guess I would say I can find my flow a little bit better in my creativity when I work like this. So that's just a little bit of a note for myself for the future when I'm creating some new pieces, which hopefully I will be doing at some point this year. And it really doesn't take much to create a pretty profound looking piece of mixed media artwork. You don't need a lot of fancy materials. You don't need a lot of materials, period. I just happen to have collected a lot over the years, so I have a good amount to pull from, but you really don't need all of these things. And the most important thing is your words and your thoughts and, you know, what you're feeling when you're creating the work. That's really what really matters, and then the rest is kind of just icing on the cake. So I'm just taking a moment here and assessing where I'm at, if I'm ready to cut this down. Any other little nuggets I want to add here. And I'm just going to add a couple more little words here. So, oh, joy begins over and over and over again. Sometimes we just have to look for it. If you haven't noticed, I really enjoy hiding little messages in my work, little words of encouragement and little reminders. And that's why journaling is such a great place for that, because it's just an open invitation to include the things that are important to you. And whether you end up sharing your journal with others or not, it's just a great personal place to share these little tidbits. My fancy camera work here, it's great. All right, back to the top, and it's time to cut the page, which I had a hard time with this last time because I thought the piece was quite perfect just on its own in the big format, but I am going to cut it down so it works in my journal, but I am taking baby steps here and cutting a little bit wider than I need to for my journal page. And I will go back again and cut it down to the size that I need these pages to be, but sometimes it feels better to cut a little bit less than you need and then go back and cut the rest. One nice thing about doing it this way is when I do make the next cut to cut these down to the size I need, the leftovers are just beautiful little pieces of scrap paper that I will definitely be using in some of my other pieces. So I'll show you those here in a second. All right, so this is my second cut, and they are the size they need to be for my ever-growing journal. I'll bring some of those pieces out, show you where we're at. First and foremost, let's make a little bit of space. And here are the little bits of leftovers that I just love. So yes, you will definitely be seeing these again in some of my future pieces. I'll go ahead and lay out the pages that I have so far. And if you've seen any of my previous videos, you can kind of see the process of me creating all of these. I have a video, I think, on each one. And my goal is just slowly to create more pages and build a little book of my journal. And like I've said before, it's quite messy, but that's how I like it. This is kind of a shot of my brain and my heart right here. A little messy and rough around the edges, but I'm filled with a lot of thoughts. So if you're enjoying this, be sure to subscribe and follow along. Leave some comments saying hello and introducing yourself. I would love that. And until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I'll be back soon. Cheers.